What's up, man?
Lewis, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I appreciate you coming, not coming in, but logging on and joining me for this conversation.
You got it, man. It's a new world. We got to adapt.
Yeah. So where are you now? Are you in Vancouver or are you still in the States?
I'm in North Van. I drove home about a week and a half ago. So I got an Airbnb to be in full isolation. So kind of losing my mind over here, trying to find as many books to read and things to learn. So it's a weird time for sure.
Have you read any good ones?
Right now I'm reading Why the Best Are the Best by Kevin Eastman, old assistant coach for the Boston Celtics. It's a pretty good book. He basically goes over 25 power words that he uses in his life, and just trying to take some notes and get some nuggets from it.
Right on. So for those of you who don't know, this is our second time chatting in this kind of format. Lewis and I talked last summer when he was a new manager with the Everett Aquasox, and he gave us some really cool stuff. We won't go too far into kind of the stuff that we talked about that time, but Lewis, if you want to just kind of introduce your journey to everybody who might not have seen that video yet, and if anybody wants to see more, it's on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, sure. So I played high school ball for the North Shore Twins. Had a really good time doing that. Played on some really good teams with some awesome teammates that I still talk to very regularly today. After that, wasn't recruited very hard out of high school, but went to Cochise College down in as southern Arizona as it gets, about 10 minutes away from the border. So there was nothing else to do but play baseball there. We had a bunch of grinders on that team. We went to the Junior College World Series one year and had a really good team the next year, won conference, but didn't make it all the way. Transferred to University of Arizona after that. First year, went to the College World Series. That was my junior year. Lost in the final, heartbreaking. Still think about it every day, which is crazy. And then after my senior year, I got drafted by the Mariners and played a couple of years. Pretty average pro career by numbers don't lie, unfortunately, and it's pretty public information. But yeah. So after that, in my last year, I really wanted to figure out what I really enjoy in life, and helping others is definitely something that came to the forefront. And thankfully, the Mariners gave me an opportunity going into the next season, and the chips kind of fell into my lap, which I'm definitely grateful for. And now I get to manage the Everett Aquasox.
Yeah, which all happened very fast. I think by most people's standard, a year you went from a player getting prepared to go to spring training,
Yep.
um, to being an infield coach to being a manager, all in the same year.
Yep.
So, what kind of whirlwind was that for you?
Yeah, that was a crazy time. We were on a transitioning to a coach was pretty simple for the most part, but that whole transition between the infield coach to a manager was undescribable. I mean, I was in a car with my manager at the time, Denny Hawking, and the trainer Taylor, and got a call from Andy, our director of player development, and put on speakerphone, and he asked me if I wanted to be the manager of Everett, and I kind of thought he was kidding. I was stunned, and it was a pure silence for probably about 10 seconds in the car, and then Andy said, it's probably a good time if you get excited and say yes or something like that. I was kind of leaving him hanging just because I didn't leave, but no, it all worked out. Turned out to be a really good situation, really good team, really good group of guys, and yeah, beyond excited to hopefully get back sooner than later.
I read an article from The Athletic by Corey Brock, who covers the Mariners, and he was talking about he was really just like telling or retelling all the people in the Mariners organization that had such positive things to say about you and what you've been doing, what you did as a player, why they recruited you, why they drafted you, and why they wanted you as a coach. And one thing I didn't know as I was reading that is you were prepared to go back to U of A as a grad assistant.
Yeah. So I actually did go there for the fall after I was done playing, and for the first start of the spring. Um, that was a super cool opportunity. I'm enamored with University of Arizona baseball. they run such a great program over there. Jay Johnson, who was my coach for the 2 years that I played there, is unbelievable. And I know we're going to talk about preparation, communication. He is like, he's at the forefront of my mind whenever I think of those two topics. And to be able to learn from him and his systems and how he handles his business on a daily basis is pretty special. And I was able to contribute even in a small amount and kind of help out with taking notes during practice on where we can improve or where we're really doing well and what each individual guy may need on top of what we're doing as a team. So that was kind of my intro to coaching. And then there was a visa problem that was going on. And because of that, I reached out to Andy and I was like, Andy, it's basically, hopefully you can kind of shoot me a job, even if I'm a player coach, which ended up being, or I'll have to move home and kind of start a new career kind of thing, which would definitely not be what I want. And thankfully he obliged and set me up with a Modesto infield coach job.
And they were talking in that same article, they were talking about how you stepped into your role as the infield coach job. And one of the things that the coach Denny, right?
Yep.
He was saying in the article was that you took charge. You took charge right away. You took charge of positioning. You took charge of the daily drills and daily fundamentals that the players used. And as we go into our main topic, I think of today is preparation and communication. And so taking charge, what does that look like, or what did that look like with you, with that team at that point?
Yeah. So to begin with, Denny was the one who basically put the ball in my court, and he did not need to do that. He was a guy that I played for the year before in Clinton, but he told me the second that we got there, like, hey, and if anyone doesn't know who Denny Hawking is, he played 13 years in the big leagues. He is an unbelievable human being. He cares about his players like crazy, and he's incredibly knowledgeable. And he was an infielder as well. So I wasn't really expecting to go in and take charge of the infielders at the time, but first meeting we had, he said, Lou, you got full control of the infielders. You can do whatever you want with them. I totally trust you. Do the positioning, do their drills. It's on you. And I was not expecting that, but it was something that, thanks to the freedom that he gave me from the very beginning, I was able to just kind of pick up and run with it. And another thing that kind of got on top of that was, I'm pretty sure he's listening right now, Mark Roach, good buddy of mine. He was our video guy in Modesto, and he brought an idea to me in spring training that year about how we could track our infielders' ground balls during the games. It's an idea that was kind of started by Tucker Frawley with blanking on the university that he coaches at, but it's a really Yale University. And so during the game, I would plot down where our guys would field the balls and where they would throw them, and if they made errors, what would cause that, what their footwork type was, what the hop type was of the ground ball. And after that, we would submit all the information to an Excel sheet. We'd send that off to our analytical department, and they would spit out a really cool looking report that we could give to our players. And we would present it to them on a monthly basis, and they would look at it, and we would review it with them, make sure that their daily drills are based off of what they're doing well and what they're not doing well based on their monthly report. And because of that, we were really able to fine tune each person's plan instead of making it a cookie cutter program for everybody. We were really able to dial in on some cool things.
So a lot of people are torn when it comes to analytic departments in baseball. And I know that there's some organizations that are super forward with it, and there are some organizations that maybe hold back a little bit. And I know that the Mariners are more on the side of wanting the analytics department, working with the analytics department. And it sounds like you guys use analytics to help you identify weaknesses and strengths so that you can address that on the baseball field. Is that true? Or is that right?
So we definitely use that to identify things, but also we do it so we can back up our work.
Okay.
So we're still coaches. They still trust us that what we see, and based on our knowledge and our skill set that we've built in the past, that we can trust our eye and trust what we see and make determinations based off of that. However, the great part about analytics is that you might see one thing, but really there's something underlying that your eye's not able to catch. So it's really just a way that we can check our work at the same time, and making sure that when we present ideas to our players, they know that it's not just coming from my eyes and not just coming from what I'm seeing. We have numbers to back everything up. We communicate really well throughout our departments, whether it be high performance or the athletic training programs or our strength conditioning coaches. Like, everybody is so connected, and we put such a holistic message to our players where they have not only proven coaches giving them information, but as well as the numbers to back it up. And it just really leads into a high buy-in level. And that way we're able to make the correct adjustments quicker.
Yeah. You mentioned that high performance, and that's kind of where I want to take this, because as I was saying, I was reading quite a few articles about the Mariners, I'm a big Mariners fan, and I barely knew this kind of stuff was going on. So I think it's fantastic, first off, and I'm not going to pre-disclose too much about it, but one of the coolest things that I found about it, and talking about gas camp. So gas camp is what the Mariners take a bunch of the pitching prospects and do gas camp. Can you explain kind of what gas camp is?
Yeah, so gas camp, we basically identify a bunch of our players where we feel that they have a lot more in the tank, and based on their arsenal and their physical attributes, they can add a lot more velocity onto their fastball, which is the main focus. What happens when you increase velocity is it makes your pitches less hittable. It makes your pitches safer to throw in certain locations. So easiest way to break it down is if we can get our guys to throw harder, they don't have to be as accurate with their pitches, because their action scores are going to go up, and therefore the whiff percentages are going to go up along with that. So our guys will go in there. And now, I've never actually been a part of a gas camp. I'm not a pitching guy, so I'm not incredibly well versed in this topic. But they go in there, they get their movement screens done with our HP, and they kind of do their shoulder mobility, their hip mobility, their dissociation levels, and everything, and then they work with our strength conditioning coaches to work on those inefficiencies and push those efficiencies higher if possible. So that's kind of phase one. And then we go through certain throwing programs based on the individual. Their diet is refined a lot, which is super important. And then the pitching coaches go in there and do their thing. I mean, we have so many incredibly knowledgeable people in our pitching department, from the top down. And so when we get all those minds in the same area with the great talent that our scouts bring in, it's really led to some really great results.
One of the quotes that I thought was really good was by Aaron Reese, and he said it's more about the overall health, general wellness, and longevity of the pitchers rather than the focus on trying to gain velocity. And he said that the velocity just comes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing about the movement screens that are done at the very beginning. It's not like we're just throwing these guys as guinea pigs out on the field and having them throw random weighted balls at random targets. There's a complete plan based behind everything that we do. And thankfully, I mean, I'm not smart enough to really be able to wrap my head around everything that HP does with our pitchers, but just walking through the weight room during their movement prep time, where each guy has an individual plan and things to do before they even go through their stretch. And they do that based off of their movement screens and which buckets they get placed in, and where they need to get better. And just seeing stuff like that, it's really cool to be a part of, and knowing that each guy, like, their career is really cared about by every coach in the building. And it's not just we're hoping that the whole group as pitchers are going to be great. Like, each guy is their own person, and we take that very seriously, and I think we do a great job of that.
You said you put them in their buckets?
Yeah, so like maybe this guy his hips don't move well. He doesn't have a lot of dissociation between his hips and his shoulders. Whatever it may be, there's, like I said, I don't know the exact buckets that they're placed in, but after the movement screens and everything, HP goes through and puts them in certain buckets, and it spits out stuff for them to do.
So it's like a category kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Um, so obviously you're a manager with Everett. Last time we spoke, it was about halfway through the season. How do you feel the rest of the season went for you?
I thought it was really good. Obviously, we didn't make the playoffs, which is goal number one. But at the same time, there's so many new guys into the organization at that point. And I took it upon myself to make it really important that these guys are learning our core values as soon as possible and making sure that they know what's important to the Mariners and what's important to us as an organization. So we would do things. We have a peak performance book, which is like our mental skills book. And every home game, every night home game, I would have a team meeting and just kind of have a guy read out one of the pages in front of the group, and then I would kind of give my take on the whole situation, and we'd have guys give examples, and that was just a way that we were able to. The guys are basically reading themselves our culture, and figuring out ways that in their life, how can they make changes to adhere to that culture. I think that was the most important thing that we did that year. It's not always about the results, especially in year one. It's a long year, especially for college guys that go through a 70-game season, and then they have maybe a week off during the draft, and then they've got to go play 75 games. So yeah. It's a long year. Winning is important for sure, but there's also a lot of things that we look at and to gauge our success as an organization, and I think we did a really good job of that.
So once the season's over, is your job finished until spring training, or what does your off season look like as a manager and as a player development member of the staff?
So essentially, like, our job is done after the season. I think it's important for a lot of our staff members. A lot of people have wives and kids and a lot of family that they don't get to see whatsoever. I think we play 140 games in 152 days or something like that. So I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory that family time is kind of put to a halt for half the year. So just being able to be with family for at least the first part of the off season and being with friends and kind of catching up on things in life that you can't necessarily enjoy during the season is important. Other than that, we're encouraged to do a bunch of deep dives into situations or topics of the game that we're really interested in and seeing if anything comes of it. They send a bunch of the staff to the Dominican Republic to our facility in Boca Chica, which is incredible. I was able to go there for 10 years 10 days. And it was incredible. These kids are like 16 to 19 years old for the most part. And the joy for baseball that they have on a daily basis is unbelievable. I've never seen it in my whole life. And to be honest, I went there thinking that, these guys are, for the most part, 16, 17 years old. The skill level is not going to be very high, but I got there, and especially the infielders. It is unbelievable what these guys can do in the infield. Like, comparing them to players that I had this year, like, there's definitely guys that are more ready defensively than guys that I had in low A this year in short season. So that just speaks to the talent that our scouts are bringing in and somehow scouting these 15, 16-year-olds and signing them to contracts. But so that's one other thing we'll do. Cool thing the Mariners are doing is we have Spanish classes set out for the staff, which is really important as we're talking about with quality communication within the organization, within the players. We do have a lot of Spanish-speaking players. And if you're a coach that can't properly communicate with them and get a message across to them so that they'll buy in, it's a huge roadblock. Because there's so much talent, and if they can't hear what they need to hear at the right time from the right person, then that can be a big problem to organization. So that's something that I'm going to be taking very seriously, and that's started a couple days ago. We have conference calls in the off season. For managers, they had to be on the hitting and the pitching conference calls. It was once a week, and just learning about skill development and skill acquisition and what drills we can do and how to make our practice plans better. That was super important. So it's basically all about finding new ways to learn new things, to make sure that our toolboxes are being filled as much as possible, and making sure that we're providing our players the best resources possible. Because if we're not, then we're truly doing a disservice to our players, and that's something that we take really seriously with the Mariners.
I want to go back real quick to what you said about the 16 and 17-year-old Latin infielders and stuff like that. What do you find is like the main divider between the top infielders and the infielders that need work?
That's a good question. I mean, if I'm going to compare the 16 to 17-year-old Dominican kids that I was working with down there, they are they're just incredibly athletic. And it's probably due to the fact that the fields that they're playing on before they get signed by the Mariners or any other organization are bare minimum. The balls that they're using usually don't have seams on them, or they don't have stitching on them. And it's unbelievable seeing what these guys can do. They're so athletic, they're so fast twitched, and they just really trust their abilities, and they're just going out there and playing. So many times you see infielders getting a routine ground ball and they think themselves out of the ground ball, just making the routine play. When these kids are just, they see the ball hit and they're just going to trust their athletic ability, and then they're just going to go and make the play. Infield wise though, I've been incredibly lucky to work with Perry Hill, also known as Bone, with the Mariners. He's our big league infield coach, and he has the 6 Fs, and it's feet, field, funnel, footwork, fire, follow. So those are his 6 Fs that he teaches. You can find them online, no problem. They're everywhere. But the reason he does this, he simplified the infield game so well, where when someone messes up something during the practice, or they're not doing something to the standard that we need them to do, instead of having to stop the drill and explain it and be really intricate and try and get your point across, once you teach them the 6 Fs, all you have to do is yell out one of those Fs. So instead of stopping everything and everyone's losing reps, all you have to do is yell out field. And field means you're getting in a wide base, you're fielding the ball out in front, and that's it. And so once you say that, okay, the guy's probably getting too narrow, or maybe he's getting too wide, or he's fielding the ball too deep. The player will understand that. And so it just simplifies the process of development just by teaching them a really simple, it's a complex system that's made simple by the 6 Fs. And that's the genius of Bone, and incredibly lucky to work with him, for sure.
It's like a keyboard shortcut.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have your conference calls. You obviously have all these things that you're trying to expand your knowledge base and learn new things throughout the whole off season. But you have that feeling of relaxed, that taking a breath, that decompression from the season. At what point do you turn the switch to get prepared back to go to spring training and be back into that mode?
So for spring training, I probably flipped the switch a little bit after Christmas. That's where the conference calls really started ramping up and started getting into the practice plans and how we're going to attack development during that year and what new processes and systems that we're going to be applying. And then about halfway through January, I got a call from our field coordinator at the time, and they said that I was going to run the mini camp for our minor leaguers. So that's a time where Major League Camp is going on. We'll invite basically our top prospects to come down and get better, start their improvement, get them kind of warmed up for minor league spring training, which will start usually 3 weeks to 4 weeks later. And then also they fill in as backups for our big league spring training games.
Right.
And so once I got that call, that really ramped up the responsibilities that I was going to be taking on during spring training. As a manager during spring training, you're bouncing ideas off of everybody. You're trying to sponge in as much information as possible, but there's not a lot of hands-on stuff that you do during spring training, because you're kind of there to make sure that things are going smoothly and kind of make things more efficient if you see something not going well. Because our hitting coaches are so talented and knowledgeable that when we have a hitter having a problem, we would much rather them go talk to our hitting coaches, because they have way more knowledge than I do on how the body works in the swing and what pitches they should be looking for and stuff like that. So I'm basically just a supplement during spring training. But running mini camp for me this year was, I was fully in charge of scheduling. So that came down to what we were going to do on a daily basis and what fields we were going to be on, making sure that we weren't on a field when the major league spring training was on fields. And so basically taking overwatch of that and communicating with all departments, from the athletic trainers, from the strength coaches, pitching coaches, all the coordinators and everything. So it was it was a big responsibility, but it was something that I really enjoyed. I enjoy the challenge of challenging myself to make sure the organization's running smoothly if I can do that. And I think things went pretty well. So yeah, the off season is a really weird time. It's basically where you can call your colleagues, you can call anybody in the baseball world, and just try and make sure that your knowledge continues to improve. And because the ultimate goal is to make sure our players are going to get better. And at the end of the day, if you have more knowledge the next year than you did the previous one, then you're giving our players a better chance to develop.
So what did spring look like before everything got shut down? How far along were you into the process?
Mini camp had just ended. So we had gone through everything with that, and it went really well. Guys were getting better. We had a bunch of new coaches in the building, so they were as well. We're learning our systems and our focus points and everything. So it was good, and I think it was report date for the minor leaguers. So we literally had guys fly in from as far as the Dominican Republic, show up to the facility, get told that this isn't going to happen for a while and we don't know when it's going to start up, and they would go right back to the airport and go back home. So it was a really weird time for everybody. I mean, it still is, but
Yeah.
just that initial shock of how real this thing was going to get, it definitely hit hard. So
Yeah. So just real quick before we move on, I'm curious as to some of the differences between preparing for spring training. Obviously you had additional responsibilities, but in terms of just like your mental state about preparing to be an assistant coach at spring training versus preparing to be a manager, your first time returning as a manager, what kind of expectations did you have or thoughts did you have going in now that you were given so much responsibility?
I really didn't have that many expectations, to be honest. Being present is probably something that like I pride myself in, and just making sure that I'm bringing the right attitude every day and being myself and trusting the knowledge that I have. So if a player has a question, I know that I've done my research, I've done my homework, and if I don't have the answer, that's my favorite part of spring training, is that if you don't have an answer, there is for sure somebody in the room that does. And being able to push your ego to the side and say, hey, I don't have the answer for you, but let me go ask this guy because I know he's really, really good at this topic, or whatever it may be. That's my favorite part, because there's so much knowledge, there's so much information in that building at one time, and there's only a month, maybe month and a half of the year where that's possible, because then everybody leaves to their own affiliates. So
Right.
for me, my expectations was just attacking every day, because every day is different. Maybe it rains one day and we gotta adjust and do our BP in the cages and our infield work under a little overhang that we have with turf. Like, just being adaptable and being positive and attacking every day, and trying to make sure that you impact at least one or two guys a day and make them better.
So moving on, obviously the last 19 years as a Mariner fan has been tough. But as a fan, I'm super optimistic because of things that I've read about innovations that the Mariners have been making the last couple of years. And one of those big innovations is the high performance camp. And from everything that I've looked at, the Mariners are one of the only clubs doing it in this way. So for those who don't know, which I'm assuming is probably quite a bit of people, is they at a certain point in 2017, Andy McKay took the players off the field and put them in a facility to give them a holistic approach to becoming better players and better people. And the more I read about it, the more in love I am with the idea. And one of the things that I love most is the self-reflection and the mindfulness. So I'm
Yep.
wondering if you can touch on that a little bit more as somebody who's been in the walls.
Yeah, so I think the main things that you touched on is holistic and making them better people. Um, I feel like the perception is that everything we try and do is just to make them better players and try and have their output increase for us so we can make the playoffs and win championships at the big league level. But it's something that we pride ourselves on with the Mariners, where it's our people, our process, and it's something that we believe in. And the high performance camp is something where we kind of put baseball activities to the side for about 2 months or so, and we really focus on their bodies, getting them bigger, stronger, faster, and more importantly, their minds. So we perform community service as a group, and it's a pretty big group. I would say probably anywhere between 30 to 60 players on a given year. Um, and so they go do community service around Arizona, and which is really great. They help out with phenomenal charities and movements and stuff like that. And then they'll do leadership summits. Some guys will go to Seattle for a leadership summit, and they talk to guys like Brian Kite. I don't know if anyone follows him on Twitter and Instagram, but he is phenomenal. He spoke to all of our staff this year before spring training started, and he's a great speaker, and he really makes you think about like what you're really doing on a daily basis, and what you can do in life to enlighten yourself and make your life more enjoyable, and the people around you more importantly. Um, yeah, so when our players are going there, it's not just a classic baseball camp where they're hitting and swinging and throwing every day. It's they're working out. Their diets are really taken care of by the facility, and our cooking crews in the Peoria complex are phenomenal. The food that they put out is ridiculous, which is great. And then ultimately they get to know each other better, because for the most part, the guys that we invite to HPC, like, they're guys that we're going to trust to move this organization forward. And so if we can really have these guys buy into what we really stand for, and have themselves become leaders within themselves, within the group, where they can kind of drive the message home from their mouths, because they really truly believe in what we're doing as an organization, it makes that message that much more powerful to the players. Um, there's only so much that I or a coordinator can say in front of a group, and you can keep saying it and saying it and saying it, but until that message is really getting heard and listened to and believed by the players, where the players themselves are the ones directing the message and directing the standard that they're bringing to the field every day, it's going to be hard to have success. And so through HPC, that's something that I think we do a really good job of, making sure that our players really feel like they're in control of their development, and they're in control of the direction that this organization goes. And we have some really, really great kids and great players in our organization, and they've taken this full go from the very beginning. And it's so easy to see the differences from even a year ago, when you're walking the walls of spring training, and you're seeing the smiles, and you're seeing the verbiage change on between the players, and how they're talking about it and how they're seeing the future. And there's so much more positivity because of that. And I think HBC is a really big reason why.
So you say that the players that you invite are the ones that you guys are looking forward to being impact players for the team at some point in their career. Is that a moment of pride for players when they get that invite? Is that something that they seek?
That's definitely something where it's a huge pat on the back. And I wouldn't say we give too many of those out, because we want guys to strive to be better, and not put ceilings on their careers. But if you go to HBC, you're definitely viewed as important by the organization, and as well as a lot of the guys who are young, and we can see that the talent is there, but if they could just put on 15 pounds or 10
Mm.
muscle, like the capital gains that that they would get from that is through the roof. So those guys are also highly targeted for HPC because adding, like I said, not even worrying about baseball activity, just making their bodies move better and making them move faster and quicker, it can add tremendous value to their career.
This is something that I always honestly just thought was happening already. This holistic approach to making the players more complete. And the fact that I guess it hasn't been until recently is like, so the players in the past, I guess before this, it's been on the field and in the weight room, and that's basically it. But now the approach is how can we make these members of our organization more rounded, better people, and then let's say that let's hope that the baseball takes care of itself at the end.
Right. So, and it really is a holistic approach. Like when people think of just like a baseball organization, they think hitting coaches, pitching coaches, managers, coordinators, and that's about it. But we value our strength conditioning coaches and our athletic trainers so much that we hand our players to these guys and they do their screens, they do their tests, and we 100% trust the information that they're giving us, whether we need to lighten the load on the guys because their daily reports are coming back a little lower than usual, or the swing drills that this individual needs to do needs to be this, and this based off of his movement screens. We fully buy into that because we know that that is true information and scientific information. And the more science and factual stuff that we can put behind what we're doing, the better. And I think everybody from top to bottom has really bought into that approach. I think our players have benefited dramatically because of that. And they know when they walk into the door that they're not just another guy. Like so many intricate, deliberate programs are put together for each person where it's impossible to feel kind of worthless and like the guys don't care about me because so many people put in so many hours of work to make sure that their program is specifically tailored to them and their needs. And I think because of that, there's like a mutual respect between the players and the staff where we're all just trying to get to this end goal together. And it's not like, hey, you need to do this, do this, do this. It's not like, we're not dictators just making you do things. We're putting real science behind the information that we're giving you so you can fully buy in on what you're going to do. Because ultimately, like the players are in charge of their own careers. And we want them to be able to put everything behind that and just be fully invested with the information that we give them in order to have success. And for the most part, it works out pretty well.
It sounds to me like this is more than just trying to get a baseball talent out of an athlete. This is more teaching players the intangibles of what the really good players have to that do, even if it's just automatically, that turn them into all-stars and continual all-stars, not just a one flash and then kind of fade afterwards. But these kinds of things sounds like this is for continued growth as they become older and better baseball players.
Exactly. And that's a really good point. And we feel that once we establish this really good foundation within our players, then we can really own in on the skills needed to make them big leaguers. So once they're fully bought into what we're doing and they're taking advantage of all the resources around them, then we can start tailoring into our acquisition phase where we can make sure that whatever skill that they need to generate, and maybe they already have it and we just need to make it a little bit better, we already have the information to do that, and they've got the really good foundation to get to the end goal.
So what does a day look like at the high performance camp from wake up to you go to sleep? Because I've researching this, I've seen or I've read a bunch of things that happen like mindfulness exercises, nutritional education, even as far as tracking sleep patterns. And then and I've read that when they go to breakfast, they have a wash that they enter and how they're feeling. And then the coaches receive that information and the players are eating breakfast, but the coaches are getting information about, are your legs sore? Are you fatigued mentally? Do you feel good? Like all these kinds of things are, some might say over the top, but I think it's so important because you're investing in these human beings, and they're not just players, they're human beings and they need to be treated as such. But then there's so many different maybe not organizations, but there's so many different thought processes that treat them as just a ball player. So what does a day look like at this camp?
So I've never actually been in the walls of an HBC,
Okay.
but they wake up, they'll do their questionnaire that gets sent to our HP department. They review it, they send it out to the coaches who are there who need it to make sure that we can dial back or even dial up their programs for the day. Um, then they'll go in, they'll lift, get a really good lift in. They'll get a really good lunch. They can do stuff with our mental skills guys, which is the mindfulness stuff. Other than that, I can't really comment on it. But I know that the guys really enjoyed, for all the players that I had last year that went to HBC, being able to talk to them during spring training. It's a really cool program for them, and they definitely appreciate all the stuff that's done.
I've through reading these articles, I've taken a couple quotes from guys that are high up, like Carson Vitale and guys like that.
Yep.
And some of the really cool quotes that maybe you can just give insight or just talk about how they strike you. One of the coolest ones is from Carson Vitale is, what we're trying to do is build a massive iceberg. So the tip being, I suppose, what you see on the field, and the iceberg being the old additive of the 90% is under the surface, I'm assuming.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. So, and that's basically what we've just been talking about with building the foundation and making them really good people, and wanting them to strive for greatness, because it takes a whole lot of work to get to the big leagues. And so, as everybody knows, so few people really make it to that level. And if you make it, it's even harder to stay there. So the iceberg is a huge kind of symbol of what our players have to go through, because they have to put in work with the lights off, with nobody looking, no attention, no retribution from it. But if they keep working and they keep trusting the process and the people around them to make them better, then they're going to get their time in the show. And once you get your time in the show, then the iceberg will start to peek out of the water.
Right. So who are some notable names that people that may have, like, I know Kyle Lewis, he just broke in, and I know that he's been there. So and I know that you played with him earlier, right?
Yep.
So I'm curious, what kind of, like, you said that their verbiage changes, the way that they talk and the way that they communicate with each other. What kind of examples can you give us of the guys that have gone through this program and are like unbelievably different on the other side?
So we have a bunch of guys that do go through HBC every year. And for example, we have this thing from Brian Kite, the guy that I mentioned earlier, DMGB, and it just means doesn't matter, get better. And it's something that we are really pushing on our guys, because it's a response that you can apply to any situation, positive or negative. And a lot of people will see some like DMGB, doesn't matter, get better, as something that you'll only use in a negative instance. So if something goes bad, okay, it doesn't matter, get better. Let's go. Let's attack the next drill, attack the next rep, whatever it may be. But I think even more importantly, it really attacks the positive circumstances. Because, if you go 4 for 4 with a bomb the night before, it doesn't matter. What you do the day before has absolutely nothing to do with what you're going to do the next day. So if you can have that mentality, and that's what I think guys like Kyle Lewis, guys like Evan White, guys like Donnie Walton, those are the guys that possess that. And whether it be inherited or not, you can tell that they're the same person every single day at the yard. They're the same person in every game, because they have that attitude of doesn't matter, get better. Like, I don't care if I just hit a leanie off the batter's eye or ground it out to the shortstop. Like, I'm attacking this next at bat to get better and to stay with my process and to just be myself and attack the day. So it's those guys that you'll see walk through a room and you know exactly what you're going to get out of them, because they're not, they're not time travelers. They're not people that are staying in the past or living in the future, or thinking, shit, if I strike out twice, like, am I going to get sent down? Like, they don't do that. They stay completely present, because they are 100% confident in themselves and their process and what has gotten them to that point. And it's like an aura that they give off. in a room, and it's really special to be around.
So you guys are creating professionals.
Yes, not
Right.
pros. That's something from the book where the coach would say for the Celtics, yeah, you guys are all pros, but it's time to be professionals. And I think there's a big difference between the two.
And that difference is being able to reset.
Being able to reset and being able to be focused on the right thing at the right time.
That's awesome, man. As a Mariners fan, I'm really excited. So,
Yes,
and
excited about.
to attest of all this player development stuff, Baseball America has rated the Mariners 30th 2 years ago and 5th this year. So I just think, I think that, and that's not all Jerry Dipoto wheeling and dealing. That's a huge credit to you guys and what you're doing from the ground up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we've made some good trades. Getting guys like Jared Kelenic in the building is very important. But the fact that there's so much trust put into player development guys, put into our hitting coaches, pitching coaches, the managers, there really is full trust there to make our guys better. And because of that, everyone feels that freedom and autonomy when they're going to work every day. And everyone's just so dialed in to make our guys better because everyone in the room, everyone in the building wants to get back to the playoffs. And it doesn't matter if you're a coach in low A or if you're in triple A or in the big leagues. We all have an impact on that because you never know what guy is going to take something from you, big or small, and that will help them propel them to the big leagues. So everyone's fully involved, and we're all super excited to see where this thing's going to go.
2022 World Series. I'm calling it.
And
all right, I got some rapid fire questions for you.
All
right. Safeco Field or T-Mobile?
I gotta say Safeco, man. I grew up in that park.
I agree. Coach's pregame pump-up music.
Oh man, last year Joe Thurston was kind of in charge of our tunes, but for the most part, it's just whatever's playing in the players' room that kind of leaks over into our room. So
you guys don't have a long hallway separating?
No, we do not. Thin walls.
So in your professional career, who were you most nervous to meet, whether you're a player or a coach?
Probably, I don't know. Maybe Ichiro.
That's the name that pops in my head. I would freak out.
Yeah, he was actually really involved with our mini camp this year. He spoke to us a couple times and would kind of help out during our drills. So he's a really cool guy to have around.
Were you one of the guys flipping him front toss as he was hitting ground balls and fly balls?
No, I wasn't. And thankfully I wasn't because I'm sure if I messed up, he would have let me hear it.
Are you going to be a Team Canada manager in the future?
Oh, that's too far in the future, man. I told you I can't be a time traveler. I can't
live in the present.
I would love it, but
yeah. All right. Would you rather be a Seattle Mariners manager or the head of player development?
Also, tough question because initially I would say manager, but being able to run the mini camp this year and being able to just communicate with everybody and making sure things are running smoothly, I really enjoyed that. So I don't have an answer for you yet.
Can you be both? That's my question.
Definitely.
I mean, no.
Cannot.
What's your favorite baseball movie?
Bull Durham. Easy.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. All right. Just to wrap up, I think a lot of kids want the answer to this one, and that is what qualities in players and people are professional organizations looking for in kids that they're looking to draft?
For me, I would definitely say someone who's genuine. I think that's really important. There's a lot of people that try and be someone they're not. So that would be my first piece of advice. Like, really find who you are and what makes you you and what makes you happy, and revolve your life around that. I think that's important. People that are tough, kind of internally and externally. And that's basically being able to focus on the right thing at the right time. I think that's kind of the definition of toughness. If you're having a really bad game, if you're weak, if you're not tough, you're going to crumble and you're going to affect your team negatively. If you're tough from the inside out, then you're going to attack every day. You're not going to take a rep off. You're going to see the importance in everything. And I think that's ultimately important too. And lastly, I would definitely say find a good mix between owning what you know you do well, but as long as you're coachable as well. Because along the way, you're going to have guys in your life that are truly trying to make you better as a person and a player. And if you let your ego get in the way of that, it's only going to detriment your career. Now, obviously, you have to be able to filter your information. So you need to do your own research and your own homework to make sure that what you're hearing and what you're getting from your sources is good content. But ultimately being open and truly listening to the people that are around you in the baseball world, and at least trying out what they're saying, because all they're trying to do is make you better. That's what I found for the great majority of coaches that I've been around. Everyone truly just cares about making the player better. So as long as you're a player that will be coachable and will be receptive to information that's out there and to the hardworking people that are just trying to help you get to the next level, I think that basically wraps that up.
So I think you said tough, and I think it's important to note that there's a difference between being fake tough and being like actually tough. And I think that difference comes from acting a certain way and having confidence in yourself to just let something go instead of saying, "Oh, my arm doesn't hurt. It's okay if your arm hurts." You know, let somebody know so that you can come back in. But being actually tough, I think, has to do with, can you reset? Can you be a professional like you were talking about before?
Yeah, which goes back to the first thing, being genuine.
Yeah.
And not everybody's a great reader of people, but that's something that I feel like that I am good at, that I trust myself with reading somebody. And for me, if I can tell that you're being fake, that you're saying things that you normally wouldn't say if you're just with your buddies or whatever, then I immediately find you untrustable.
Mm.
And as a coach, if you're a player that's untrustable, I don't know what kind of person I'm going to get, because you don't know what kind of person you are. That makes it really hard for me to want to play you on a daily basis. So yeah, being able to focus on the right thing at the right time, doing things on purpose with purpose, it's all important for development and being a good person.
So last one before I let you go. Obviously the kids are at a pause right now.
Yep.
They're probably having a tough time sitting on their hands, bouncing around the walls, getting in trouble for throwing baseballs in the house. Do
Yep.
you have any advice? What can they do?
That's honestly, it was something that I was thinking about today because I knew that question was going to come up. And the videos that I've seen from around the world, I already think is phenomenal. So whether it's doing tennis ball drills off the wall to focus on, I know Bones listening right now, to focus on the 6 Fs. It's really important because, like I said, like if you truly are tough, you're not gonna think that the reps that you're doing on your own in the dark with nobody watching with a tennis ball and a wall, why does that rep have to be any less important than the ones that you're doing on a baseball field with a coach watching? If you really are holding yourselves up to the right standard and you really want to take this thing to the next level, there should be no difference. The environment that you're in should not affect the quality of your reps. So keeping that in mind, I think now more than ever is super important, because the environment that we're in right now sucks. Like, I barely go outside. I am stuck
Yeah.
inside these four walls right now because I left the country of the United States. So because of that, I've got to find ways to read certain books and articles and reach out to some people that I work with to bounce ideas off them and stay in touch with the players that I'm going to have next year. And you got to find little things to do. No matter how big or how small, just make sure they're impactful on what you're trying to do.
Find a way. Doesn't
Yep.
matter, get better.
Yep. DMGB.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot, Lewis. I appreciate this. This has been really informational. I think a lot of people are going to be able to get a lot out of this.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for reaching out.
All right. Stay safe.
You said
Hopefully you're almost done your 14 days here.
I am. I'm ready to get out.
All right.
Have a
Okay. Take care.